But let's move on to the main event, which is what I mean. This is a great fucking fight. You've got number 5 ranked Zabit Magomedsharipov, who's 17-1, fighting number 11 Calvin Kattar, and this is a featherweight clash between two of the most promising prospects in the UFC, 100%. And Zabit is coming off that unanimous decision win over Jeremy Stephens. And I like that fight because you got to see how Zabit dealt with a true veteran of the sport and Jeremy Stephens, like his last win before that, Brandon Davis. Still a little green, promising guy, right? But green. Caught him in that Suluev stretch. Am I pronouncing that right? Probably fucking not. But, you know, he was on his back, climbed over, and stretched that hamstring out, man. There's a ton of pressure on that. And a beautiful performance from him. But Jeremy Stephens is the most impressive one of his career just because Jeremy's one of those guys who has legit knockout power and he pressures forward all the time. So when you see Zabit deal with that and just he's not afraid to stand in the pocket with guys. You saw that in the Bochniak fight. But again, what you saw in the Bochniak fight was a one-dimensional fighter who was mainly throwing his hands, and Zabit has a full arsenal. So when you got Stephens, don't get me wrong, he relies on his power, but he's a little bit more of a complete fighter than Bochniak. So that to me was, but here's one thing that I've noticed about Zabit. One of my only critiques about him, he starts to fade a little bit towards, like, especially in the third round, he gets a little tired. And there were several points in the Jeremy Stephens fight where you caught him looking up at the clock. And at the end of the Kyle Bochniak fight, he was looking a little exhausted, man. So if this fight goes into the 4th and 5th rounds, I think Calvin Kattar's gone to the 5th round one time in his career. That's going to be something interesting to pay attention to. How much emphasis do they have on cardio? Because there's a very good possibility this fight goes all 5 rounds. These are two very good guys and two guys who aren't just good at implementing offense, but are good at defending themselves. And Zabit, I mean, you're talking about a lot of experience between these two guys too. Calvin Kattar started fighting in 2003. Or no, his professional debut was in 2007. So he made his pro debut 12 years ago, right? Meanwhile, Zabit made his professional debut in MMA 5 years later, but he spent like 10 years living in a boarding school training wushu, which is like what I'm not positive, but I think it's like a form of kung fu. Somebody could probably educate me on that a little bit more. If you guys know, drop something in the comments about like what it is and what the differences between that and kung fu are. But my point is that both of these guys have a lifetime of martial arts experience, right? They're both, I mean, students of the game. They're both very technical. And Calvin Kattar, I mean, ranked number 11, coming off that knockout win over Ricardo Lamas, beat Chris Fishgold before that in the first round, 2 first-round KOs in a row. One thing that I want to point out, though, and this is the main reason that I'm going to take Zabit in this fight. When Calvin Kattar fought Renato Moicano, first off, Calvin is he fights out of a boxing stance a lot. And not that he can't throw kicks and not that he doesn't mix things up, but he's really good with his hands. And I think you saw when he fought Moicano, a guy who switches stances a lot and stuff and is able to get into better positions. He struggled with that a little bit. And Zabit switches stances very fluidly. And you know what? So I would expect Zabit might have a little bit of, and Zabit's also very good on the ground. You know, he's got a very large array of submissions that he can pull out, and he's good at controlling. He's good at staying on top of you, applying pressure and controlling the position. So, oh man, this is a great fight, and I love Calvin Kattar, but I just think that Zabit is going to be a little bit too much for him, a little bit too much going on, a little bit too much in the footwork department, a little bit too much. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think this is probably your fight of the night, especially if it goes all 5 rounds. Both guys like to get after it, but like I said earlier, I want to come back to this. The one thing that I'm looking for is what if this fight goes into like I said, I think there's a good possibility that this fight just goes into deep water because both guys have so much experience, not only fighting, but defending themselves. Like that's important. That's half of fighting, you know what I mean? So if this fight goes in to deep water, is Calvin Kattar maybe going to be able to turn the tide and put some pressure on him and start doing a little bit of what Kyle Bochniak did, except for the next 2 rounds? If so, you might see Calvin Kattar get a 4th or 5th round finish from this. I would say, if I had to take a guess, right, and this is all guesswork, don't take anything I'm fucking saying too seriously. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? But I would say that if the finish is going to come for Zabit, it's going to come between rounds 1 and 3, and if it comes for Kattar, it's going to be between rounds 4 and 5, just based off what I've seen. Obviously, Zabit can make improvements in the conditioning department. Kattar can make – he's probably – it's not like he's just going to go in and fight Zabit like he's obviously preparing for him, right? So it's going to be interesting, but I would imagine that Zabit will have the advantage early on. And as the fight starts to wear into deep water, Calvin Kattar might start to take over. But I'm taking Zabit in this fight. I think he'll get it done probably in the 3rd round. And man, I've gone back and forth about this fight a lot just because, like I said, the potential for it to go the whole way is very good. There's a lot of different ways this fight could go because you're talking about 2 guys with an extremely deep skill set. So I'm excited for this one, man, but I'm taking Zabit 3rd round finish. I don't really know how. He can get it done in so many ways. It almost seems foolish to try to predict exactly how he's going to pull it off. Starts going past the 3rd round, look for Calvin Kattar to start taking over and maybe finish things in the 4th or 5th. Hey everybody, and thank you for tuning into the video. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button so that you can stay up to date with all the videos and podcasts that I put out. Drop us a like or a dislike if you didn't like what you saw. I'm a man, I can take it. And let me know what you think in the comments section. Let me know whether you agree, disagree, or just throw your 2 cents in there. And again, thank you for tuning in.